Stream it or skip it. Pee-wee as himself. Grab a drink, grab a snack, and let's go back. Hi guys, and welcome back to another episode of Gen X Unfiltered, the podcast.
What's up, everybody?
Hey.
Steve, Eric.
Hey, guys. What's going on?
Kelly,
Hi.
Steve.
Happy
Welcome back.
Saturday. Yes, happy Saturday, everyone.
Yes,
Yeah.
it's Saturday at the time of this recording.
It is. It's kind of a gross day out there, but a good day to stay inside and record a podcast.
Yes.
Yeah, you know, it's like basically summer, but like winter. But whatever, I digress.
We're waiting for summer to kick off here. It's not happening yet.
It's already
but that's
like
fine.
June. As of today's date, which is May 24th, it is winter out.
That's right. Happy Memorial Day weekend to all our American friends listening and watching.
I think-
Enjoy the long weekend, everyone.
I think that this podcast is going to go out on Tuesday, so they would have just
That's
finished
true.
up
It
their
just
weekend.
finished. So hopefully everyone had a safe one. Hopefully everyone says all their fingers and toes and they just lost the
Didn't
fireworks.
blow anything off, for sure.
Yes.
But like we said, we at the beginning, the title, it gave it all away. Spoiler alert.
That's right.
We watched the documentary on HBO Max about Pee-wee Herman himself.
That's right. And if anyone follows us on Instagram at Gen X Unfiltered, I spoiled it for you guys yesterday.
So really funny because I was scrolling on Instagram and I was like, oh my God, that's so
I was going
weird.
to say, did anyone notice? No one
hold
guys
on.
commented. I
Let
wasn't
me,
sure.
let me finish. I was like, well, Eric never is on Instagram. But I was scrolling. I was like, oh my gosh, that's so weird. Somebody's watching the same documentary as us. And then I realized it was our account that posted.
That's right.
It took me a minute. Eric's never on Instagram, so you...
Yeah, I have to add our account to my Instagram.
Are you effing serious? You don't even have... Do you even follow the account?
I don't think I do.
But don't be like Eric. Give us a follow. Gen X
Eric's the
Unfiltered.
worst.
I'm the worst example. Yeah, exactly. Just don't do what Eric does.
Yeah, pretty much. That's his motto. I'm going to get you a shirt that says, don't do what I do. Ooh, that's a good shirt.
Don't do what Donnie don't does.
There we go. The Simpsons
That's a
reference.
good reference.
Yeah.
Let us know.
Yeah, I didn't know that. But I'm
Yeah.
going to get
No, I thought I'd do it last night. We were doing a little research because this premiered last night. We watched the official
hot off
premiere
the presses.
on HBO.
Before I even give the little synopsis, I'm just going to say that I went into this not caring, not wanting to watch it.
Yeah, you didn't have a whole lot of.
I think Pee-wee Herman's the most annoying character on the planet. I never watched the show. Even seeing clips of it just make me want to rip my eyeballs out. So that's
Whoa.
where we are with that.
I thought like every kid our age watched Pee-wee Herman growing up.
Yeah.
Not me.
But not you. No.
But anyway, we'll get into more of that. But I'm just
We won't hold it against you for.
yeah.
I'm prefacing with saying that like I was not enthusiastic about doing this.
Well, you didn't hide it very well, so that's all right. Yeah. No, that's fine. Yeah.
Just saying, you know. Okay, so really quick synopsis of the documentary in case of those of you that don't know what it's about. Wow, that was a tongue twister. It's too early in the morning. Actually, it's not. It's like dinner time.
Maybe that's the problem.
It
We
is.
have some low blood sugar going on
I'm
here.
in my afternoon slump.
Okay.
All right. The HBO documentary Pee-wee Herman. Nope. Sorry, guys. I'm going to make sure I'm correct. The HBO documentary Pee-wee as himself offers an intimate two-part exploration of Paul Reubens, the man behind the iconic Pee-wee Herman character, directed by Matt Wolf. The film draws from over 40 hours of interviews conducted before Reubens' death in 2023, providing a candid look into his life, career, and personal struggles. So we kind of broke it out just in our little notes. We broke it out kind of like boom, boom, boom.
Yeah. Well, because I mean, the documentary is really just, it's really just a chronological from
Oh, yeah, exactly.
growing up and
Okay, so
all the way through to.
I
the
want
end.
to ask a first question, and it doesn't have to be a detailed answer, just sort of like a quick question, a quick answer.
Yeah. I'm saying be careful. I'm seeing that wall just leaning against your back.
Well, I moved my chair away,
No, I
that's
know.
why, see?
That's it. I know. I'm just saying I can see it
Woo,
leaning
the whole
against.
set's going to fall down.
Yeah. So just be careful.
It's fine, I'm not, I moved my chair. He always says be careful, but 90% of the time I don't even do anything.
No, I'm just saying I can see it leaning like right against you. So, anyways, carry on.
It'll be part of the
Yeah.
show.
If the walls come down.
All right.
You're acting as a support beam right now. It's fine.
If
Yeah,
the
that's-
walls fall down, your hometown. Isn't that a song?
Oh, yeah, that
Yeah.
is. It's better than Sound
Yeah,
Clash.
like, yeah.
They're all looking at me like,
No, I knew what you were doing. I just didn't know if you were going to
Yeah.
say some more or what.
that's all I
Yes.
knew. It was the hamster was
Random
going.
Canadian 2000s group, Bedouin Sound Clash.
That
Yeah.
we've like seen in random festivals 872
Yeah.
times.
Yeah,
Yeah,
seen it a
there
few
was a
times.
time where they were popped up at every like small festival in Southern Ontario.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anyway, back to
All right,
the
let's go,
topic
yeah.
at hand.
Yeah.
Wow, you can see where our ADD brains are today.
Yeah.
Okay, so first question. Was the documentary... Okay, we'll say, did you like the documentary, yes or no?
Yep, I really liked it.
Did you like the documentary, yes or
I
no?
thought so. I thought it was really good.
I'm going to actually say yes, I liked it, but I'm going to hold that solid yes for later to give some little...
Okay. Yeah.
I've actually been like very contemplating what my thoughts are on it.
Well, it's he was a polarizing character.
All right.
in real life and on film or on TV.
So really quickly and briefly, a few little points. So just everybody kind of like knows where it sort of started. Obviously, it starts sort of talking about his upbringing. But even then, I was actually happy that okay, you're going to disagree with me. They did talk about his upbringing a lot, but they didn't dwell on his upbringing. I hate when documentaries go on and on about the whole history of their whole entire life and their family's life. Blah, 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 blah.
No,
Yeah.
I mean,
It was quick. It was interspersed
And
in proper moments.
I don't think there's much of a story for his early life,
No.
really. There was a whole lot of like conflict or
no,
controversy
like he
that happened
had
there.
his
So,
family
hold-
grew up happy. His
hold
parents
on.
were together
I'm
and
gonna
stuff.
I'm gonna read it. Hold on.
Oh, sorry. Okay.
Raised in Sarasota, Florida. Well, actually, I mean, he was, but they talked about how what was it in New York?
New York, Oneida or New York,
And
somewhere
they
up,
got
upstate New York.
Dad got sick and tired of the cold weather and was like, "We're all moving to Florida." So
I was
that's
like,
how they got
props
to
to
Florida.
Dad. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I'm tired of this cold. How many times have we said they're living in
It's
Canada?
true.
Like, screw
we,
this.
We complain, but what do we do about
Now,
it?
also really quickly, I will say because it doesn't quite talk about it in detail in our notes, but he right from even when he was in New York, he very much specifically in his interviews in present day, I mean 2023, was talking about how he always felt like he was needed to be like on a stage somewhere.
Yeah, being
Yeah.
performing
Performer.
and that stuff. Like he was talks about some of the shows he watched as a kid and was like,
It was
why
just-
is that not my life?
It was
Yeah.
just always
How
there.
are my mom and dad not Desi and Lucille
Yeah,
Ball?
Yeah,
it was
exactly.
always there. So he was raised in Sarasota, Florida. Once he got to Florida, he was immersed in a performance-rich environment influenced by circus culture and classic television shows like Little Rascals and I Love Lucy. He pursued formal education at the California Institute of the Arts, where he studied alongside future stars such as Katie Seagal and David Hasselhoff. When they talk about him going to Florida, I mean, he was also older, right? He was kind of in his teenage years, early young adult years, and he definitely immersed himself in the like creative culture. Like,
Well,
what
I
did he?
had no idea that Sarasota was sort of like this hotbed for the circus.
Avant-garde.
No.
like-
Well, the circus.
Yeah.
Specifically, like the Ringling Brothers had their like training camp there or something, like
Which he went
it was
to.
like their home base, and he went to like summer camp there and
Yeah.
stuff like that. So he got totally immersed into like the circus culture.
Yeah.
And it's like he clearly had that like in his
The performer.
performing with the theatrics and the acrobatics and
It
stuff
was
like
in his
that.
soul, yeah.
Yeah, it was actually really cool. I had no idea that there was sort of a, I was thinking the circus is like a traveling show.
Yeah, exactly.
Kind of, I think, they probably have a home
home base.
somewhere, and it was in Sarasota, Florida.
Yeah, and so he got very much immersed. I mean, he was he used the word like avant-garde, right? Like very
Yeah.
like
Well, he got into like the arts and stuff like that. Yeah, and him and his like girlfriend in high school got into like the indie film scene kind of
He
thing. Like
was-
Andy Warhol, he talked about
lot of
and stuff like that,
photography.
and photography.
he was
yeah.
always very like I just lost my train of thought.
artsy. He's very
Well,
like,
artsy, I guess
Yeah.
is the word. Yeah. So again, that like they just talked about his time in Sarasota and like sort of the people that like Steve said, the circus was kind of a main influence and sort of like his artisticness. And he went to California.
Yeah.
He went to school there. That's like where it said he did a lot of like theater stuff.
Yeah.
And then
They actually have some footage of Katie Seagal and David Hasselhoff.
Yeah.
I didn't recognize him at all. And if they,
I
if
recognize
they,
Katie Seagal.
David Hasselhoff a little bit,
I
but
didn't
he had a
recognize
mustache
him.
and stuff.
Yeah.
But I mean, it wasn't the greatest of footage. It was from like obviously like a play or something.
But
they'd
Katie
done,
Seagal, I recognized her voice because she has a very distinctive voice.
her voice I recognize, but like actually
Yeah.
like her like looking at them, I'm like, oh wow, like if he didn't say that that was Katie Seagal,
Yeah.
I don't think I would have pieced that together.
No, I know. It's just
Yeah.
crazy though too. Like just like Katie Seagal, like I mean, Sons of Anarchy, Married
Yeah.
with Children,
No, she's
and
done
stuff like that.
insane
Like David
stuff.
Hasselhoff, like Baywatch and
Yeah.
Knight Rider and stuff like that. Like
I mean, let's be real. Katie Seagal, I think, is on a higher level tier than David Hasselhoff on acting, but that's just my opinion. Katie Seagal did a lot of like really good roles, like Sons
she
of
was-
Anarchy.
yeah,
she was
I-
really
yeah.
good.
Her shows were better than David Hasselhoff's
Yeah, I mean,
shows.
David
Yeah.
Hasselhoff.
David
was-
Hasselhoff, I think like as far as like fame wise though, was like
Well,
yeah, David Hasselhoff.
yeah.
If you
because
said,
he was on a show with tits and ass. That's why.
well, that Knight Rider and stuff, but he's more of a brand.
I'm
Yeah.
offended.
Like you said, David Hasselhoff, don't hassle the Hoff.
Whereas Katie
I
Seagal,
watched Baywatch for the plot.
okay. Whereas Katie Seagal, like she's a little more like kind of artsy and takes different roles and all that kind of. She's an amazing singer too. Have you ever heard her sing?
Oh yeah, she sang a ton of songs on Sons of Anarchy.
Yeah,
Yeah, like
she's a great
the
singer.
theme song. Yeah,
And a lot of people would say like Married with Children, it was less like a floofy role, but it was still like, I mean, the role she had to play was
yeah.
a very
She
like,
that was a great show. I haven't watched that in
yeah.
years, but yeah, no, I loved it when it was Married with Children.
So one of the things that, in California, and this is kind of my first like part of the documentary where I'm like, okay, I'm just going to be straight up. I didn't know anything about Paul Rubens, the person.
No,
I
me
didn't know
neither.
much about him.
I knew nothing about him.
And I'm saying this stuff in a completely just like what my perception of him was, or what I had heard, or what I didn't hear.
Mhm.
And I always assumed that Paul Rubens was gay, which is fine, obviously. But I always assumed he was. 'Cause I think I even asked you guys. I'm like, oh, is
And-
Paul Rubens gay?
Yeah, and like honestly, like I was a question mark. I'm like, I think he is, but I'm not really sure to be
Yeah.
honest.
Yeah.
So in this documentary, he talks about one of his first relationships when he went to California, and it was actually with a guy.
Yeah.
His
Yeah.
name was Guy.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah.
But he was a very influential person in his life, and they lived together, and there was like footage of him, and he was very like, they inspired each other in a creative sort of way. And we'll learn very shortly in the next chunk of blurbs that he was this partner of his was also very inspired Pee Wee Herman, had little bits of Pee Wee Herman, and
He was
that's
very
where
funny
he,
apparently. And PB,
Yeah, he was-
Paul Rubens said he stole,
A lot of
some
his
of his bits,
bits.
and yeah.
Yeah, he said the way he would eat, like he said he would eat stuff like certain things, like he'd eat like a chocolate, but like chocolatey.
Yeah.
and
and
stuff
he
like that.
would-
PB kind of was like, I'm
he
gonna.
took pieces
Yeah.
of
He
that.
kind of remember
I'll work that
he's-
into my PB bit.
But the thing that I don't know, the thing that like struck me as like kind of, I don't even know what the word I'm looking for is, but so obviously in this documentary he's talking that he obviously was in a relationship with this man. They lived together. I can't remember how long they lived together. It was like a relatively longish time.
Yeah, it was a couple of years.
But
I
he
think,
ended up,
yeah.
they ended up breaking up because, Paul Rubens just wanted different things. He wanted to move on. He wanted to grow, blah, 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 whatever.
No, I think.
Well, wait. I'm forgetting something.
I think you're glossing over a major point there.
Well, I was going to go back to it, but I was going to say I was going to like revert back to the part where I'm like, I feel kind of sad about it, is the fact that as when that relationship ended, he like went back in the closet.
Yeah.
That's
what he said.
Yeah. I was going to get more to the point that the reason Pee Wee left him was it was either
Paul Rubens,
sorry, left him was that he realized he was giving up on his dreams
Okay.
of shows becoming and going into acting and stuff like that, right? And he left because of that. His dad
Yes.
kind of gave him that,
Yeah.
sort of said to him, hey, if you want to
I
be
think-
famous and you want to be
You
Yeah.
can't be in a long,
whatever you want
yeah.
to be,
Yeah.
Fair enough.
you playing, and they kind of
The
said, Paul
relationship
said
is
he was-
important. You
he
got
said
to put yourself in
yeah, but he
first.
said you were playing house.
Yes.
If you want to do that and have a relationship and
Yes.
like a family and whatever,
Yeah.
cool. But you talk about wanting to be famous and this and that.
Yeah.
Which I
And so
don't know.
Paul Rubens made the decision to
He did.
pursue fame over love.
Over, yeah.
Right,
his
and
relationship.
And the big
I-
part of it that you sort of talked, yes, is that
Sorry, I just want to say one thing
Yeah.
though when you were talking about the parents though, because I don't want to forget to say it. But right off the top, from the very beginning and it's interspersed all throughout the documentary, is that, which I'm not gonna lie, kind of shocked me, but his parents were very supportive of every single thing he did.
Yeah.
Whether it was
I was
relationships
gonna say,
or
him being gay and stuff. The
they were
father was
like,
like,
cool.
be the, what do you say? Be the
Be the best
greatest
homosexual
gay
you could be
can
or something. Yeah.
Like what?
Yeah.
Especially like in the,
Well, in the
70s? Like, are you
like
kidding
that.
me?
Yeah. When,
Yeah.
like, it wasn't accepted at all in society.
I mean, amazing.
No,
Like
I
I
mean,
was
that
like, wow.
really, really nice to hear.
Yeah.
And I missed, is his sister lesbian
I
too?
think so.
I kind of, they
I don't think
mentioned
they
it,
said it, but
no,
they
no, the
talked
sister
about
100%
her-
said it quickly.
But I think they talked about her having a girlfriend. She mentioned
Where
a
she
girlfriend.
mentioned something about, and I was like, oh, they're both gay. Okay. But yeah,
Yeah.
I was like, I'm pretty sure she said, I'm a lesbian or something.
She said partner, girlfriend,
Yeah,
something.
so I was
that-
like, oh, they're both gay. But yeah, no, it was super
so
nice to hear that his parents were like, just be you and be
Supportive.
great, and
Yeah.
we support
but
you.
the sad thing was, and this was sort of the underlying not weirdness, but the underlining kind of like, part of the documentary for me was like, it was almost in like that moment. Well, he did that moment. He went back in the closet. His words, I went back in the closet.
Yeah.
And because he even kept it. I mean, he wasn't famous then, so it was easy to like
No, he
hide
was-
the
yeah.
relationship. But he even said like they were pretty private about even being in that relationship to begin with.
Yeah, but he was out to his family
He
and his
was,
friends and
yeah.
stuff like that. But he again, he knew in the 70s,
Yeah,
almost early 80s, being an openly gay man
yeah.
is not going to help your career at all in Hollywood, sadly. So he knew that.
no, at that point in time, like, everybody in Hollywood was closeted.
Yeah, so he went back into the closet, and it's a big part of his
Well,
theme for the rest of his life
I
is
was-
that weird duality of,
well,
Yeah.
I was gonna just say that.
He's very very guarded about
Yeah.
his persona.
Well,
his
to
personal
me,
life,
to me, that was a big turning point in obviously his life, but to me, that like you just said, he chose in that moment to never be who he really is. He chose to be other things, other people, other personas, other alter egos. He chose to do that. And that's kind of sad to me.
Well, and that's kind of, I mean, I think it's coming up in your points here, but because when he's in LA, he joins, I don't want to,
the Groundlings.
Yeah, which is like a famous like improv group.
Yeah. And then he said he's like, I had just a million different characters.
Yeah, and he started their improv. He was doing like, he would dress in, and because he was, he would dress in drag and do all sorts of stuff like that. Different characters. He actually was on the Gong Show. Was like even he said it was like he won. Super. Yeah, he won as like a super. Now it would be considered super offensive.
Racist.
Dresses as a Native American, like
doing a dance.
Yeah, what was it? I can't remember. John Longtoe or someone. I can't remember what it is.
Yeah.
But yeah, he actually won the Gong Show.
Yeah.
So I think,
But even in that character, you could see the little bits of the dancing and stuff like that.
Well, he took
the dancing on the toes and stuff.
That became stuff that he did as Pee Wee Herman.
Yeah.
So it's funny, you can see as he's,
well,
working through these different characters and stuff like that. It's all
figuring out what works and then kind
these
of
little
perfecting.
pieces and taking this piece and that piece. And
so here's sort of the birth of Pee Wee Herman in a super surface level point form. Rubens developed the Pee Wee Herman character in 1978 during his time with the Los Angeles-based improv group The Groundlings. The character gained popularity through live performances in HB Special and the 1985 film Pee Wee's Big Adventure, establishing Pee Wee as an icon. So the Pee Wee Herman character, one of you, maybe Eric, you can talk about how that's sort of, when he talked about how that kind of came to light. Do you remember?
No.
Okay.
The Pee Wee Herman character came to light. Like,
it was just he took bits from he was inspired by his former partner. He was inspired by the different characters he was doing. He just took little bits and pieces. Yeah. But he also, I can't remember. He did talk about sort of like it wasn't initially for children.
No. And I'm trying to remember now how he came up with the name Pee Wee Herman again. I forget how he came up with Pee Wee. Herman was the name of a kid he knew who was like really hyperactive.
The kid's last name was Herman.
Yeah, and I can't remember where he got Pee Wee from. It was from a toy or something, wasn't he said?
I think so.
I
forget about that. I forget about that part. But
it was kind of inspired by, the name was a kid he knew that was like super hyperactive when he lived when he was a kid in Florida. And it was kind of...
And he thought the name was so weird that people would think it was real.
Yeah, he's like, no one would come up with a fake name like Pee Wee Herman.
Yeah.
He was like, because he said he's like, Rock Hudson, Cary Grant, those are stage names, but they sound like not like, no one named their kid Rock Hudson.
I would name my kid Rock Hudson over Pee Wee Herman. Are you kidding me? Pee Wee? Who names their kid Pee Wee?
Because I know it's a terrible name. That's the whole point. People, lots of people. How many times have you met? I've met. We've had. I'm not going to say their names, but we've had conversations with people that we know, and we're like, "Why would you name your kid that?"
Yeah. Okay,
and it's like that's where Pee Wee Herman. He's like.
I think objectively we can say Cary Grant's a more normal name than Pee Wee Herman.
Yeah, but he's saying it's too.
I get it.
Too perfect.
I get it.
It's like
too off.
So I think
it's too on the nose, right? Whereas a lot of people like some of these kids, like really they name their kid that, like even like we talk about people, like someone named Ronald McDonald. It's like, why would you name your kid that?
So I think that from the biggest thing for me, like after watching the documentary and kind of looking back, like obviously when Pee Wee Herman was born, Paul Rubens did not exist anymore. Literally, because he literally said anytime he was in public, he was Pee Wee Herman. When he went on talk shows, he was Pee Wee Herman. When he went, because we'll talk about it later, like when he had his whole legal troubles and then he kind of was making a comeback. It was like the first time in all those years he had went on a talk show as Paul Rubens.
They had one interview with him on.
That's it.
It was whatever. It wasn't CNN. It was some local, like 24 hour. Maybe it was local, but
it was the early CNN, I think.
But he went on there as... Yeah. He was Pee Wee Herman, but he was still like in the Groundlings, so it wasn't. Yeah. It was locally getting some popularity in LA, but not any larger than that. So he did. That's the only time he was Pee Wee / Paul.
Right, but
after that, it was
always Pee Wee Herman.
Yeah, he lived his life
as this. Any red carpets, anything, and that to me, like I think, like again, he was just never Paul. I think up until even like, sort of in his later years before he passed away, maybe he went back to being able to be Paul Rubens, but like he was just literally Pee Wee Herman. That was him.
Yeah.
Paul Rubens didn't exist.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I didn't know exactly.
That has to mess up your psyche.
Oh, well, I mean, it
clearly
did. Yeah. Talked about it multiple times.
That's messed up.
Yeah.
So I'll let you guys talk more about the actual Pee Wee Herman show because I can honestly say my whole entire life I've never seen one episode. So I know it's really annoying. And when they showed it on the show, I just wanted to like rip my eyes out because it was so irritating. It's like a bunch of 9-year-old, 8-year-old kids just being annoying.
It's really
But
off
they
the
were
wall.
adults.
It's really off the wall, high energy.
But talk about Phil Hartman too. He was very important.
Well, no, and I think we're kind of jumping back and forth
we are,
here
but I'm just
because,
like over.
Yeah, because then you kind of touch on. But so Pee Wee started out as like a character he was doing on Groundlings, which led to then they wrote like an actual stage show, which they did at the Groundlings and became super popular. So they moved it from that theater to the Roxy, which is like a bar nightclub.
It was like a stage show.
It had more, exactly. It was a theater performance.
Yeah.
But yeah, you wrote it with the Groundlings, which it was Phil Hartman and I forget the guy who played the genie. There's a couple of them there that kind of wrote it together. And then as it just kind of got bigger and bigger and bigger, it became this big stage show that ended up touring around the country.
Yeah.
And that's where then he went on HBO. They actually recorded it live. I remember seeing that in like, I think I must have been like high school. I remember seeing it airing somewhere. That's the first time I'd seen that version of
the stage show version.
Pee Wee Herman. Yeah. And I was like, because I had, like, I knew obviously I'd seen the movies. I'd watched the show as a kid, but I'd never seen that.
Yeah.
And I was shocked to see like Phil Hartman and all this stuff. And I was like, holy shit. Like,
there's a lot of,
where the hell
did
this
here?
Well, this is before the days of Google and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So it's like, how the hell did all of that happen?
Yeah, it's weird.
So that's why I found it really interesting because I didn't really know much about Pee Wee or any of that.
Well,
other
exactly.
Than just watching as a kid.
Because as a kid, like I saw the TV show first before any of the movies. So
really?
Yeah. So as a kid, I thought the TV show was the first thing, and then the movies came out because of the TV show. But that's not the case at all.
Yeah, and that's what I'm trying to remember too. Is like how I don't even know how I heard of Pee Wee Herman.
Yeah.
Probably because it was back when there was like only a certain amount of TV channels.
But I remember seeing the movie. Like I saw the movie.
You saw the movie before the TV show?
Yeah, I'm sure.
Okay.
I'm positive I saw it in the theater. Yeah.
Well, your parents probably took it.
Yeah, but I just don't remember. Like
honestly, I remember kids in school
must have just
talking
seen the
about
commercial and been like, "Oh, it's."
I remember kids in school talking about the Pee Wee Herman like show on Saturday mornings, and I was just like, "I don't know what this is. I gotta watch it." And I was like, "Oh my god, I'm hooked."
And then your mom banned it.
She did ban it for a little while. Yeah, she was like, "You're not watching this weird shit stuff."
I like how he gets all like, "Oh, I can't say shit."
Yeah.
But so for me, like I didn't realize until after, like when I was as an adult, that the first movie was like before the TV show.
Yeah, and it was cool. It was directed by Tim Burton. That was Tim Burton's first movie, which
is
crazy.
After Frankenweenie, his little short there about that little monster dog.
I think some important little points about that was like how that movie even got written and how it became that movie. Because remember, they were all just thrown in a room to write a movie.
Yeah, and they were going down a path. He wanted to do like Pee Wee Herman or Paul Rubens was his favorite movie was Pollyanna. Was that the Disney movie?
Yeah.
It must have been with Haley Mills.
Yeah,
remember,
he was
said
obsessed with it.
He wanted to be that kid.
The little boy in that movie. He wanted to be that kid.
He wanted to make Pee Wee Herman Pollyanna, who brings the whole town together and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And this whole thing, because I've never seen Pollyanna,
but
she
doesn't matter.
She falls out of a tree and gets paralyzed.
Yeah.
And so that was going to happen to Pee Wee.
But it wasn't really working.
And I guess like somehow Pollyanna brings all the townspeople together because of her.
Well, because I think she's
actions.
been so friendly and everyone along the way that when she gets hurt and she needs them, they all come to her.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
then, because Pee Wee at this point now he's done the HBO show, the stage show's been selling out. So now Pee Wee Herman is popular, and they're like, "Hey, we're going to give you $6 million to make this movie."
They all literally sat in a room and smoked weed. And
I sat in a room at was it Warner Brothers lot?
Whatever lot, yeah.
And the Warner Brothers lot, apparently the way to get around there is you ride a bicycle.
Yeah.
And so Pee Wee or Paul would see people on bikes and be like, "Why don't I have a bike? Like that's the easiest way to get on this giant lot."
How do I get one of these things?
So somebody got him this like 1960s retro red bicycle,
and then he wrote the movie,
and he saw it and was like, "That's the greatest bike in the world."
Write a movie.
I know what the movie's about now.
Yeah.
And it became about this Pee Wee and his bike.
Yeah.
Which is crazy. And he said then they went in and they wrote it. Him, Phil Hartman, and their writing collaborator did it in like a day or two.
Once they had the idea.
Like once that idea hit, it was just like
super
boom,
simple.
It just all came out.
It was Pee Wee loves his bike more than anything else in the world. Pee Wee loses bike. Pee Wee gets bike back.
Yeah, Pee Wee goes on an adventure to get it back. Yeah. And it was funny though, but he said like we're going down this one alley with this completely different way, and then he just happened to, hey, why does everyone here have bikes? I want a bike, and someone got him, a Pee Wee kind of bike, not just a regular 10-speed or whatever.
Yeah.
All right. We're going to have to take a quick commercial break, but then I'm going to ask you guys some very deep questions. Are you ready?
Oh boy,
I'm ready. Yeah, deep, dark questions.
We'll be right back.
Let's go pause this camera.
Okay, are you guys ready for some hard-hitting, deep, impactful, thoughtful questions?
No.
Oh, you guys look nervous.
Not at all.
Let's do it. Lay it on us.
All right, so here's a question. I can't answer this because I don't know much. Why did Pee Wee Herman resonate so widely across age groups, Eric? What do you think?
Oh my God. You know why? Well, because there was like stuff on purpose. It was we're talking about the kids show?
Pee Wee Herman in
Pee Wee
general.
Herman.
I mean, it was bright, colorful, noisy.
It was bright, colorful, and like there was, just jokes for kids on the TV show.
With a lot of innuendo.
There was also innuendo that adults and, college kids would get too, right? So you're going to get that audience as well, being like, whoa, there's more to this than just a kid's show.
Well, that's exactly it, yeah.
But thinking about it a little bit deeper, like, do you think that, like, that character made, the adults feel like kids and it kind of gave them a youthful thing?
I think it had that nostalgia tinge to it of, the way the sets looked and stuff like that. Like, Pee-wee lived in this, like, weird...
Retro's 50s
sort
almost.
Of 50-ish kitsch
pop
culture mix. And I don't know if you get it. I can't remember if that gets... But, like, he had, like, even it's kind of a cool story. Like, all his set design and stuff was done by, like, guys that he met through, like, the punk movement.
He was a punk artist,
Punk was coming up at the same time, and just where the Groundlings were located happened to be kind of in that area in California where the big punk scene was. And he met an artist who did all the local posters for all the punk shows.
It definitely had its own style.
And it was cool to see. It's like, you can totally see, like, when they showed the posters that the guy was doing for, like, the Black Flag and all this stuff.
And one of the person who worked on the production, I thought it was a really interesting comment. They said, I was so glad the puppets didn't look like Muppets. Because back in the 80s, everything, if it was a puppet, looked like Muppets,
where these
right?
and we met like Flory. It was a bunch of floorboards, and they're like, and Pee-wee loved the weirder, the better.
Yeah, exactly.
He wasn't like, no, just give me like a man, bald guy, old man, or a bird or whatever. It was like,
it
was
says,
really cool.
It says the show's aesthetic was shaped by artists from the punk and underground art scenes, reflecting a DIY ethos. Ethos, yeah. What's ethos mean? It doesn't matter. And breaking conventional norms in children's programming. So, I mean, it had all the points for like little kids. It was bright, it was weird, it was funky, it was loud, it was noisy, which just hurt my brain.
Look at how he opens the show. He just comes up screaming through like the window of the door.
Oh my God.
Like,
holy cow, the rage I just felt by you imitating that. Why does that just make me so ragey?
But if you're like a 7 or 8 year old kid, you're like, whoa,
well,
my God.
As a kid too, because it's clearly he's an adult. So as a kid, you're like, wow, this adult, it's not another 7-year-old doing this. It's, it's this crazy, 30-year-old man. Boy, whatever.
Can I ask a question then? Another question?
Yeah.
Do you think the duality of the like kids/adults made for both, but not, but kind of, but yes, would work today?
It does work today, I think. Look at like South Park,
Simpsons still,
like Family Guy, all those things they're
Scooby Doo's full of innuendo.
Yeah.
If you go back and watch old Scooby Doo stuff, oh yeah.
Okay, but that's old. I'm talking about.
No, but
now.
I think it's always been. There's like I think it gets I think like Family Guy, even the Simpsons not as much, but like Family Guy, South Park,
I would beg to differ. Those are adults.
Yeah.
Those are not
more
children's
adult-oriented cartoons, but I think you can still get away. I think they still do. You watch some new Disney things and stuff like that.
Hold on, a question though. Do you think like Simpsons when it first came out had the innuendo, or did that change over the years to bring
no. I mean, I think. Definitely not like season 1, but I think season 1, The Simpsons didn't know what The Simpsons was at that point.
Yeah.
Right? So that I don't know if you can really count that.
The Simpsons was trying to be like an animated sitcom to start, really.
Yeah, but they got into, like, as they got their footing more, but the season 1 and 2 stuff, like, they were, like, like, look at Homer, Bart, like, they were just trying to suss out the characters at that point, but...
Yeah. Okay, well, interesting.
Yeah, I think they still do, and I think that's how you get that cross appeal, and I think you see it in, like... Maybe not so much Disney movies per se, but even in those, sometimes there are little jokes and stuff, and like little, I mean, because they know parents are watching, so they need to
little nod to mom and pa watching.
Yeah, sort of. Hey, here's a joke for you guys. We're not going to make it overtly whatever, but enough that you can be like, haha.
This is not for the kids. This is for you guys.
Yeah, exactly. So I think.
All right, so Pee Wee Herman characters in full force, living life, doing the movie, gets the show. I think it went on for like 4 or 5 seasons. It was whatever. Now one of my things that I didn't realize was that, like, in the grand scheme of his career, Pee Wee Herman was really small part. I mean, time-wise, like lengthwise was a small part. Like it wasn't like a 20-year career of being Pee Wee Herman. I mean, Okay.
No, it's probably a decade there of
Yeah.
like
Where I'm talking
82
about, like,
to like
movies.
92. I think
Yeah.
is sort of that.
Because I forgot, he totally started off as like kind of just a personality on talk shows and stuff,
Yeah,
right?
that's
Like,
what I mean.
like David Letterman and things like that.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, in my head, I only know Paul Rubens as Pee Wee Herman, right? So in my
Yeah.
head,
Yeah.
I'm thinking like the 2000s. There was little sprinkles here and there,
but
but the
Pee
height
Wee
of
was
his
done.
career was pretty small in a timeline way of like 40 years.
No, he still had a lot of longevity in Hollywood and stuff
Yes.
after Pee Wee Herman because it was around 91, 92. I think that's kind of where
But-
it like
Well, 91.
stuck.
But
Yeah.
I would
Yeah.
say, like, in my head, it felt like it was like way into the 90s and the 2000s. I guess I just didn't realize,
Yeah.
again, I'm talking in the grand scheme of time wise, was such a small time frame. Of
No, it was
the
like you said,
40-year
there was
career.
like a 10-year. Pee Wee was probably like I said,
Yeah.
I'll say from like 81 to 91.
Yeah. Well, it ended in 91.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll get there.
But
But
by that point too, he was already like he sort of said like he was burnt out and like
Oh, well,
because that show he said was a grind.
But it's
Yeah.
not only that it was a grind, which in and of itself would burn you out, but again, it's the thing that just keeps going back to me. And I know there's tons of other like, creative types that do this, but like unless he was in his four walls, he was Pee Wee Herman. He was never himself.
no,
Ever himself.
no, not outside of his
Four walls. And even then, I mean, some people are so dedicated to their craft. Who the hell knows? In his house, he could have just kept that character
Well, even if
going.
he wasn't that character, he was writing, he was
Yeah.
producing, like he had say in everything. Like he made his own career. Like he didn't have people saying, "Hey,
Yeah.
Paul or Pee Wee, you do this, you do." It was just him telling everybody else,
Yeah.
"This is what we're doing. You do this, you do that."
He wanted all that control.
He had all the control, and I think that.
Really good example. Remember like the opening sequence where they have that kind of his TV show, and they talked about how like
That little animated,
the little animated stop motion piece.
Yeah.
And they talked about how many times they had to redo it because
They wanted it to look like velvet.
Exactly.
all this stuff, and they're like, it got better, but it would be like they'd shoot it for like 3 days, and he'd be like,
Yeah.
move it, have the camera change
Yeah.
this, and like,
But that's that crazy level of control he wanted.
Yeah.
and that exactly, and it
Yeah.
worked clearly because he got to
But that
as big as you could possibly
Yeah.
get in that world.
crazy level of control
But-
comes at a cost, which is
Burnout.
Burnout.
You have no life, and he
Yeah.
said that he's like, I had no personal life, no nothing.
No.
It was my life was Pee Wee Herman, whether I was dressed up in this suit jumping around
yeah.
or writing, directing,
But
everything.
It's one of those things because I mean, and this is just sort of rhetorical, but like it's what he wanted.
Well, they always say what's
Right?
that saying, right? The famous saying is, "Be careful what you wish for, and you just might get it."
He even
Yeah.
said it is like before. He's like, it was. What do you say? It was like, I shook hands with the devil before I realized I did it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
When
Yeah.
it talks about like what he gave up for the fame.
yeah,
Yeah.
No, and that's the thing. You hear all that all the time. People think, I would love to be the biggest child performer, or not even because he didn't want to be a child's performer, but I just
No,
want to
he
be.
wanted to be the kid that was in all the Disney movies. He's like, I want to be that kid.
I just want to be
Yeah.
famous. And
Yeah.
it's like,
Yeah.
here you go.
Yeah.
And you're
Yeah.
like, God, again, he like shit. That's a lot of work to maintain it and
Yeah.
all that stuff. So yeah,
I
say,
mean,
be careful what you wish for.
there's never any doubt, and there's a reason why these people become, whether for short term or long term, become successful like they do. I mean,
Yeah.
there's no doubt that these people, and I say these people, but like, who are really good at their craft and dedicated to it, are dedicated. They
Yeah.
put
Oh,
in the
yeah.
work. Like, it's not just coming, they're putting in the work, they're putting in the creativity, they're putting in the time, like you said, at a cost. But, it's like a weird example, like just kind of like his start and like when we did the Tom Green documentary on different levels, obviously, but it's almost like the same beginnings,
Yeah, similar.
right? Like they
Lot
just
of
did it
performance
all
art.
themselves, like got there
like the
themselves,
total, just sort of the whole punk rock DIY.
Yeah.
and like
People aren't going to pay me to do it. Well,
the same.
damn it, I'm doing it myself.
The same
and
thing
F all of you.
The same thing happened to Tom
Yeah.
Green, right?
Yeah.
Like he burnt out,
Yeah.
and now has, same as Paul Rubens, he now has 800,000 photographs and recordings and videos and home videos of all
Yeah.
this stuff, right?
Yeah.
yeah.
It's crazy. So one of the biggest things, like I kind of said at the beginning, and I feel like it's probably been a discussion in the world as far as like, Paul Rubens' sexuality. Not that it's not anybody's business, but he's definitely, I feel like, always been, well, in this documentary, he was as well, but never really like yes or no. And again, nobody's business, but as a
Yeah.
public figure, people are going to like question and wonder, but he's never really said either way about anything about his
Well, because
sexuality.
he would talk about basically saying, basically would say, I'm gay.
Right.
And then the next breath would be like, but am I?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Even
like, you know, like he would always kind of, because it was all like, the footage was all
from 2023.
Even in this documentary about himself, he's always trying to keep like the viewer, us, and the interviewer off balance.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, he definitely that was his control.
Well, and that's kind of, he alluded to that a lot in this documentary, that because
he wanted to direct it.
Yeah, because he's not the director, he's just being interviewed, and he has no control over how they're going to edit this, cut this, or whatever. He struggled with that.
He didn't like that. Well, we'll talk about the end of the documentary, but even like Eric said, like a lot of the conversation that was going back and forth in the interview, when like the more candid stuff, it was definitely him being like, "Oh yes, but really."
Yeah,
it's but
was
right?
I? Yeah, exactly.
And it's like when it was the one thing he made a joke about is like, you guys have had me, he's being facetious, but it's like, you had me here for hours and haven't fed me. And I knew that if I said I was gay, you would let me eat and let me leave.
You got what you wanted.
Tortured me to say this, basically. Yeah. But, he's obviously being facetious, but he's always doing that stuff.
So, but part of me was wondering, like, is he doing that because that's always what he's done? Or is he doing that because he's just really, obviously he knows he's gay, but like he just doesn't, he's too scared to admit who he really is, because it's probably been a long time that he's ever been who he really was.
The thing,
maybe he doesn't even know like 100% who he actually is. Or just
he's still not 100% comfortable to say it.
Yeah.
Being that he's still Pee Wee Herman.
Yeah. I don't know. But
who knows? Yeah.
So he did talk a lot throughout in different parts of the documentary, the challenges of maintaining his private life while embodying a public persona. And I can't even freaking imagine. Like, okay, a really small comparison, and like, don't at me anybody. I know this is a bad comparison, but I'm just saying, look at like the three of us are pretty much who we are on camera in real life. However, when a camera's in your face and a microphone's near your mouth, you also put on a little bit of a persona. You smile a bit more. You have a little bit more pep in your voice. You have a little, but imagine having
to do my real voice.
No.
If you think this
Eric's a prick in real life.
No. But I'm like, hold on, you guys ran my train of thought. You guys make me mental.
What happened?
I'm just saying. But like, I'm just saying, so imagine having to be quote unquote on, even at our baseline level of being on 24/7 as soon as you walk out of this house. And I mean, I guess everybody to a certain extent kind of is.
Yeah.
But like, we're talking about somebody who, was a completely different person, different voice.
Well, look at him when he's not, like they have, like, because there's a ton of home footage in this thing.
Yeah.
And when you see him when he's at home, he's got like long hair. He's unshaven. He's wearing like...
He liked feeding the deers.
He loved animals. He had a beautiful house in the Hollywood Hills there. But, like he does not look like Pee Wee Herman at all.
No.
And that was... We get to his, his mugshot, and he sort of said that. That's the first time people saw
what I
this
look like.
Paul Rubens, because they did not look... I remember seeing the mugshot, and it's like...
Yeah.
The hell happened to Pee Wee?
Yeah, you even described it as it's like my Charles Manson mugshot.
Yeah, because it's like he did not look, Pee Wee with the red lips and the like pancake makeup and stuff like that, to like long hair, like, because he was a massive pothead too. Like, he loved his weed.
Oh yeah, well, that's how he wrote his first movie. He said they just
Pee Wee was built by marijuana.
So he reveals that he's openly gay during his early career. He admitted, like, he said that very fully. He talked about Guy, his partner, like very openly. But then he chose to conceal his sexuality as his fame grew, fearing it would impact his career. I get it. It was the 70s, the 80s. I mean, being gay in Hollywood, being gay anywhere was not a pleasant experience, unfortunately.
Imagine there was no way that they would have had a homosexual child TV star.
No, back then
in the 80s.
No,
God,
never.
That never would have happened.
No.
But was the cost worth it to hide yourself for so long? I don't know.
I mean, only he can answer that.
Well, obviously, it was rhetorical, but like,
because I'm sure it still happens in Hollywood and stuff like that.
100%.
Oh yeah,
for sure in sports all the time. Like,
oh my god,
But
look, you can be gay and play hockey. You can be gay and play baseball.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
people do. They are
football.
right now. People just don't.
I know. It's
but
sad.
It is really, really sad that in this day and age, that
like,
it's still a
to be closeted.
Yeah.
Especially something that is so fundamentally a part of you that you can't change. Not that you would want. I mean, but like, you can't change it. But to have to hide that.
Well, it's
like
just
hiding the fact that you have gray hair and covering it, that's one thing. But like, you can't change who you are, but you have to pretend you are not.
Well,
or you don't have to. You choose to pretend you're not. That sucks.
It's just, I mean, the whole thing is just, it's so dumb.
And I'm coming from a place where I don't have to experience that. So I I can try to understand how difficult that is and how easy it is for me to just say like, well, no, just be yourself. I get it. But like, I just wish that people felt safe enough to be themselves.
Well, and not who gives a shit.
Well, exactly.
I always, are you an asshole to me? No, literally that's all I care about. It's the golden rule. Treat people like you want to be treated. Who gives a shit what people do at home?
Literally don't care.
It makes no difference if you want to be an actor, a singer, you want to throw a football, hit a golf ball, play hockey. Like, who gives a shit?
It's just sad.
It's just really sad.
Still, nowadays, people still don't always feel safe enough to be who they are.
It is very, very sad, yes. Because it really,
So that was obviously, I mean, again, I think as... I think there was always the quote unquote, for lack of a better word, like rumor mill that he was gay. Again, it shouldn't have even been a topic of a discussion, but I think because he just didn't say anything either way, it was a topic of a discussion, but whatever.
Yeah, I don't really know, to be like, and that's the thing, like during the whole Pee Wee Herman era, I was pretty young.
Well, I mean, you were young.
Yeah, so I don't even know if that was like.
No, I mean, it was probably
more later on after his controversies that it started to be like, this guy's.
Something up here.
Yeah, some weird stuff.
So here's a question. Do you think that you can ever fully separate a performer from their persona?
Oh, separate the artist and the art?
Yeah.
Oof, that's tough.
I don't think so.
I don't think you can. Because
I don't think so. It's like having a split personality. You just become that other person.
There's so much of...
But that happens all the time now. Yeah. People try to justify like, well, R. Kelly, for example, right? People are like, I like R. Kelly's music, but I don't like the man. And they try to make that separation.
You can't, though. It's the man made the music.
Well, yeah, exactly. Yeah. And that's the struggle some people have, right?
No, and that's the thing. You realize that, hey, not everyone is always great and stuff like that. No. But in terms of, like, it's weird because, I mean, Pee Wee is a character.
Right.
Not, it's hard to... I don't know. I mean,
but
Paul and Pee Wee Herman, I think, are just one and the same in so many ways.
Well,
like, it was a character he put on, but
let's remember
there's pieces of his personal life in the Pee Wee character.
But hold on though. But let's remember there's a difference. So you hear of actors all the time who take on a movie role and they literally immerse themselves in that character. So for that's 3 months, they are that person. They, go home at the end of the day, they're still that person because they want to stay in that character, right? And be as much of that character as they can.
Yeah, like Daniel Day-Lewis.
Right.
Does that, yeah.
A lot of them do it. But like, I'm just saying, so like in theory, like Paul Rubens, when he was Pee Wee Herman and the show was going crazy and it was doing well, like he was, but I guess this is an example because like it was sort of a controversy that sort of ended Pee Wee abruptly-ish. But like, I'm just saying like, once that Pee Wee era was over, I feel like he was still Pee Wee though. I feel like he was so ingrained in that character.
Oh, I think so. Because I mean, there's pieces of his personality in there, whether it's subconsciously done or not. There's going to be things that, Well, I'm sure for a year after that show, I'm sure he was constantly
here's the thing,
doing
though.
it. But 20 years later, he would still, I'm sure occasionally would have a.
Here's the thing, though. Maybe because he was, I'm getting deep, guys. Maybe because he was hiding so much of who he was to the public, obviously his sexuality, a big part of him, the Pee Wee character was the safe space to kind of like be a part of himself, but not really. Because like you said, you always have bits of your real personality in those characters.
No, I think
but like it was like a mask. It was like
armor.
It was an armor. It was a security blanket.
100%. And I think,
which is why even like years and years and years and years later, he still, when he went on talk shows, he was still Pee Wee Herman. That one talk show he didn't. But even then, remember, he like, the first thing he did was talk in the Pee Wee Herman voice. And then he was like, no, this is my voice.
Oh, you're talking about on the Tonight Show?
Yeah. Like, so
when
I
he
mean,
hit the cue cards?
Yeah. So I mean, that was like, Pee Wee was his mask, maybe.
Well,
to protect
100%.
himself.
Yeah,
for sure.
It was a character. There's a reason why. He made a comment about that. He realized once the Pee Wee Herman character, when he started doing it, and it was like, hey, this is, he could see like, hey, this is working. People are digging this and stuff. And he made a conscious decision that Pee Wee Herman is going to become famous.
Yeah.
Not Paul Rubens.
Yeah.
I think
he struggled with that, but it was a conscious decision that I'm going to not be Paul Rubens in public ever again.
No, he wasn't. He wasn't.
Now Pee Wee Herman, and that's when he really.
But that's dangerous.
Yeah, well, he dressed up as Pee Wee on the street, and he saw the reaction he was getting from people looking at him. And stuff.
And he realized, hey,
I'm connecting with people. I'm getting a reaction.
But isn't
here.
that dangerous? Like you're just literally living your life as a made-up character.
Yeah. Well, it's hard because
but it's an easy way to hide.
It is.
Well, not even just it's an easy way to get burnt out regardless because you can turn it off at the end of the night, but you do that day in and day out. I mean, not even, but look at how many YouTubers you see, people being like, I can't do this anymore. I don't care about this topic that I've been doing on YouTube about day in and day out for 15 years. Like, I'm done. I just need a break.
It's like the little mask where, you turn on that camera and you have to have that little extra sit up straight. You're like, I'm over it.
He hit that mark. Like, he was clearly... When his show was ready to be done, it was clear that he was
done too.
He was done. I think he needed a break. Yeah.
All right. So we're we've been talking a lot and we haven't even got to the chunky parts. So sorry guys, we're just down this rabbit hole. So one of the biggest things, and this is where his legal controversies and public perception. So the documentary does address his 1991 arrest for indecent exposure and the 2002 investigation related to his collection of vintage erotica. Rubens denies allegations of, I'm not going to say that P word, and attributes to the negative media portrayal to homophobia and public misunderstanding. So really, really quickly, I am the first to admit, again, I knew nothing about Paul Rubens. I heard about the scandal. I remember the mugshot. I remember I had a perception and made up my own narrative of what he was arrested for. Watching the documentary and hearing and reading about it myself.
Yeah.
That was just bullshit, and that was just because who he was and the
Which
fact that
one are you talking
the
about?
first one. That was still bullshit.
In the adult theater. Yeah.
Yes, indecent exposure is still illegal. However, he was in an adult movie theater watching an adult film. Every single adult that goes into that movie theater was going in there to watch that movie to do something specific. Let's just be real. He wasn't in a regular movie theater with families doing something indecently. He still denies that he did that part.
No, he says it was, I mean, the biggest thing, it was just because of who he was.
That's it wasn't a big deal.
What he was doing is
was not a big deal.
Is it wildly inappropriate and whatever?
Of course.
Obviously. And it's not cool and it's illegal.
But I'm saying
in terms of what celebrities have done or, in terms of
God.
He didn't kill anybody. He didn't.
No.
Do you know what I mean? Whatever.
Now,
again, his rocks off.
Yeah.
Do that in the privacy of your own home, yes. But however, he was in an X-rated movie theater. Every single person in that X-rated movie theater was going. Look, I'm going to ask the question.
He wasn't another local Cineplex.
People aren't going to X-rated movie theaters to just enjoy the movie.
No, they're not going there for the plot. And
the
plot points.
We all know this.
And I think for a lot of people who thought Pee Wee was weird to begin with, they're like, "Oh, see, I knew he was up to no good."
Well, that's the thing. They're
because
this justifies my weird thoughts about this guy.
Because he was a children's entertainer, so that created controversy and drama.
A children's entertainer is a grown man pretending to be a kid.
Well, that's what I mean. He was a children's entertainer, so that fueled the narrative. That made him, and look, he. Which I totally understand. I mean, I get it. But I mean, that, and then also in the 2002 thing, that destroyed him. To be charged for the things he was charged with.
The first time he said, no. And
he went in hiding.
Well, because one of his friends sort of said to him, "Oh, don't worry, the public will forget." And he's like,
"They're not going to forget about this.
It's there. The public is an elephant, right? An elephant never forgets."
Well, especially when it's something like,
he's 30 years from now, this
controversial.
Hey, 100%, he's not wrong because first thing I think of Pee Wee Herman was
when he got arrested.
Yeah, it was.
And I'm not gonna lie, before I really researched and knew, I thought it was something more sinister than that happened. Again, I'm not condoning what he did, but in the grand scheme of life, it was fine. But I'm just saying, I thought it was more sinister in the sense that, there was children involved or whatever the case was, and I was completely wrong.
No, it was more, where he was, it was. Everyone there,
we all remember the 90s. You had the little peep shows.
Everyone was there for a certain reason. Nobody was I think it was, this is a weird sting operation or.
This was a sting operation.
Yeah.
It's so weird. Are you really wasting time arresting people that are going to a movie theater to watch porn?
For public indecency and.
Yeah, they would do that.
You weren't on the street.
Well,
they probably wanted to collect.
It's still in the early 90s, so they probably knew, homosexual men, maybe, there's that whole weird, we gotta go arrest these people and whatever. There's still that bigotry and stuff there, so I'm sure there's a whole bunch of shit there.
That happened. Then he went to hiding. That's when the mugshot came out, blah, blah, blah. Then I'm just trying to speed it up because we're sorry, guys, we're really dragging this one out today. But then in 2002, this was complete and utter bullshit. So who was it? Was it somebody that worked for him that was disgruntled?
No, it was someone that was friends with him and friends with a guy that was the principal from
Ferris
Bueller's Day Off, who went to jail for.
He went to jail
we all
for
know what it is. CSA, yes.
It's a PDF file.
P-file,
yeah.
We're just going to refer to it as CSA.
So I kind of, but yeah, somehow there's a connection between the three of them and this other person who then called the cops and said, hey, go check out Paul Rubin's house. He's got
same stuff
there.
Bad materials.
And Paul Rubin's, if you see his house, like he
hoarder.
Collected everything.
Oh, yeah.
Stuff like it's crazy, like a museum almost, full of stuff.
The thing that gets me the most in this little block of time that they're talking about this in the documentary, or he's talking about it, is the amount of time. And look, let's be real. If somebody is looking at inappropriate material, CSA material, it's going to be easy to find, right? Like they're not just going to have one tiny little thing hidden in a corner. There's going to be stuff scattered around. The amount of time that they spent searching through every single thing that he had to like desperately he did not have any CSA material. He had like homophobic.
It was vintage gay magazines.
Yeah, it's like it
was like homoerotica.
1940s, like
I don't know what you call it.
Not like comic books, but like those. They look like books or whatever.
There was one magazine or thing that he had, and they were convinced that the guy on the front of it was underage. They spent time researching to make sure that this kid wasn't underage.
And then he wasn't.
He wasn't.
He was the kid, the man was.
So, it was a young-looking man, but he was not a minor.
He was charged with obscene materials.
Yeah.
But this just blows my mind, and I don't know. I get why he had to be placed on the sex registry offender list for 3 years.
Yeah.
And he didn't even have any CSA. Are you kidding me? It was a witch hunt. And
definitely. I think they said like the day before the charges could have got dropped. It was a new
last second. It was a new
DA.
They were running for
yeah.
sheriff or DA or what, because they had to be elected down there.
Yeah,
so it's like, hey, I need a headline.
Yeah, exactly.
So
that was his headline.
Yeah.
And he obviously vehemently denies us that he is the P word. And I mean, because that ruins your career. And even though he wasn't ever charged with that.
Because he was on a comeback after the first round. Like he had been in some different TV shows. He was in some movies as himself. But like, you know, he was.
Yeah.
Paul Rubens was becoming.
Okay,
famous again.
We're going to have to take a really quick reset break, and we will be right back to wrap this up. All right, we are back. So we were talking about his final arrest and charges, which was just like a weird witch hunt, and it was not fair. And I feel bad for him that he had to register as a sex offender for 3 years. Like, that is not a stigma you ever goes away. Even like I said, even though he was never convicted of any kind of stuff like that.
I don't think it even matters. And that's
it doesn't matter. Fact that doesn't matter.
The fact that he was charged or whatever, it was already over.
His career's done.
Yeah, it sucks. And I mean, not even to mention your career, but just like your own like feeling of yourself.
Well, no, yeah, but I mean to have the whole from the 1990s kind of getting past that, then to have this is just like
Well, he said he felt the impact of those events even today.
Oh God,
he never escaped it.
Yeah.
So one of the things that we didn't really say, but they say right off the top of the documentary, is that. Excuse me, I have hiccups. They interviewed him for 40 hours for this footage. Unbeknownst to any of them doing the documentary, he had been battling lung cancer for 6 years. Now, in the documentary...
6 years, too. I was like, man.
In the documentary, he looks healthy. He has a little bit of weight on his face. Like, he looks like he's 70. He has good Botox. I'll give him that.
No, I mean,
but he looked healthy. He didn't look sick.
No, he didn't look...
I can't remember. They did say at the very beginning of the documentary, but I can't remember when... What did they say? Like, it was only like 6 months before he died that he did those interviews. It was a short
time. Yeah.
So, and just to jump ahead really quickly, like, they obviously at the end of the movie showed some pictures of him right before he died, and holy crap, that 6 months, he just like looked like I mean, obviously dying from lung cancer, you don't look great.
No, but
like crazy, like drastic decline in those 6 months.
Yeah, like he clearly got very sick. Yes.
So they did the 40 hours of interview. Nobody knew. We kind of talk about quickly about how throughout the whole, at the very beginning, he mentions it. He sprinkles it throughout about how he really wanted to direct this documentary.
Yeah,
he wanted all the control.
He wanted that control.
Yeah,
and I feel like it was kind of like, and especially near the end, which we'll talk about, but it was sort of like you could tell the producers had, I think, definitely at the end, but also had a hard time with him trying to keep him like, no, guy, this is like our documentary.
Yeah, well, they had the phone conversations between the producers and him, right?
Yeah, but I'm just even talking about the banter that they kept in of the interviewing, the candid parts. You could tell that the producer was just like, oh,
because the producer was like, I think there's a little bit of trust between us, and Paul Rubens was like, well, I think so, but is there? He kept kind of like, doing the same thing he always did, which was not give you a straight answer.
So an interesting fact about it is that I just want to read the last. They don't really say, but so an interesting thing too is that after those 40 hours of footage, they were going to be talking more about the arrest, the most recent arrest. I think they said they were going to talk about, and he just basically like ghosted them.
Yeah, he just disappeared. After 40 hours of this, he was just like...
He disappeared.
Yeah.
Again, I don't know the timeline, but I feel like it was only like a 6-month timeline from when that, and then he passed away.
It was fairly quick, yeah.
But he disappeared, and then he did a final audio recording, not an official... Well, no, there was that phone call. The phone call between the producers.
And then they found the audio recording of him.
But wait, the phone call was interesting because it was like the producers were basically just kind of like, okay, like...
Well, do you trust us? You don't, you know, basically it was the director saying, hey, I don't feel like you trust me, and I want you to trust me. And is Paul kind of saying that
like,
why he was having trouble
with that?
You know, again, he's like, he knows he's a controversial character.
Yeah.
You know, so I get it. How are you going to show my story? Are you going to throw me under the bus? Are you going to concentrate on like the arrest? Or are you going to make me look like a deviant or not? What? So I get it.
So the very end of the documentary was an audio recording that he died. I think they said it was the day before he died. You could tell his voice was definitely different. Like, I mean, he was whatever, but I think they said it was the day before. But it was just a very like, somebody who's reflecting on their life.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just basically what it was. He was devastated about the fact that he was labeled this predator. He rightfully so. I mean, I can't imagine. And I find it interesting that was like kind of one of the things he said. So, I mean, obviously, it's something but like weighing on his mind throughout his whole entire life that he was labeled as this person.
Yeah.
And just like some reflection. And then, he ultimately, unfortunately passed away. But
it was a weird power move in a way you think about it.
That's what I was about to say. I think it was a big FU to everyone.
Yeah.
Because in that recording,
questions.
He said, I've decided I want to finish off the documentary, and here's my ending for it.
He waited to the last minute.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
that's how I took it, as it was him as his final way to say, I'm going to tell you my story.
Yeah.
How I want to tell it.
So there's a couple.
Do with it what you will, but you can't ask me questions here.
There's a couple.
No back and forth. Just
this is it.
There's a couple of really interesting things that, like, I think the documentary was good, but it left me like questioning a few things that, like, I just don't know. Like, it's like sort of these, like, in your mind, like your Roman Empire, you sort of think about it. Like, I just forgot what I was going to say. Literally, did you just literally see the life drain from me as I forgot the light go out?
I felt it derail.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to be honest. And this is like, it doesn't matter what I think, but I'm just saying in a completely just like my perspective of watching this and the little I knew about him. I can't tell if he was a good guy or not. And when I say good guy, like, I don't mean like fundamentally to the core, like a good guy. But I think he lived a life in narcissism. I don't think all narcissistic people are evil people.
No.
But he definitely was narcissistic.
Well, he definitely stepped on a lot of people along the way. He didn't have a whole lot of sympathy for a lot of them.
He was lonely.
He said that. Yeah, he was lonely, but regardless of that.
Well, look what he did to Phil Hartman. Like, who was
Phil Hartman, and he said that was his thing. He's like, Phil Hartman was not a big fan of Pee Wee Herman. He thought he didn't get any credit or payment for helping
develop
and build.
What did he say in response to that?
Well, he's like, he became Phil Hartman.
Obviously, but at the time.
No, but that's clearly what he said on the documentary was, Phil got SNL, so boo-hoo.
Yeah.
Here's the world's smallest violin for you, Phil.
Yeah. No, I know, but I'm saying like at the time before that all like happened.
Yeah, but I'm saying Pee Wee's response was, Phil got his credit, so shut up.
Yeah, he had no sympathy for
he's like, you got SNL, you're fine, boo-hoo. Go away.
I think that I feel more fundamentally overall sad about the whole story because I feel like I don't know. I mean, I'm sure he was very talented. I mean, I don't have to like the product he came up with, but I mean, he was clearly talented. He captivated a lot of people. He was dedicated, but I just feel like it's sad because I think he lived 70 some odd years just never really being who he was. Whether it was when he was a kid trying to live in this fantasy world of like being other people and like wanting to be other people as far as like his personal life and like, you know, his relationships.
Yeah.
And he always just, I feel like was just obviously had a guard up. I wonder who he really was.
As soon as he ended that relationship he had with Guy, he was always closeted in one way or another.
Yeah.
Whether it was like hiding behind Pee-wee or
it's like
or hiding in his house, like he wouldn't leave his house after the whole like porn theater incident in 91.
Yeah. Well, interestingly enough, like it just kind of shows, and I mean we're speculating, right? But like I'm just saying, interestingly enough, how much impact that one conversation he had with his dad, because that ultimately changed his whole entire life.
Yeah.
Yeah. And sort of the one thing we never talked about just totally quickly was
You can hear it rustling.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry, the one thing we never talked about was Debbie Mazar. Was that her name?
Oh, yeah, because
The
there was a
actress,
whole
but-
persona that they were dating.
Yeah, well, they were friends and, you know, just really
She
good friends.
helped him after the arrest.
Yes,
Yeah.
that was his first public appearance. They staged it because
Yep.
that's what celebrities do.
Celebrities
They hire their PR crisis team.
Yeah.
It was him coming out for dinner with her. So they even, you know, they had
They
that.
never said they were dating, but the assumption was they were.
Well, just to show Paul Rubens with the actress coming out of a restaurant, it's like,
Yeah, look,
people can draw their own
he's a
conclusions.
normal guy having dinner with the lady.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's just
But-
and I think that's a big part of it. I don't know if he would have, you know, if Paul Rubens started now, would he be as hidden?
I think
I don't
so.
know, but
I think that's just who he
At
is.
the time, he knew he wanted to be famous. Again, a 23, a 28 or whatever he was, gay man trying to become this weird children's performer
Yeah.
in 1986 would
It's not gonna
never
fly.
happen, and he
No.
knew that. So he, you know,
I
he had
just-
a very strict. This is
He drew a hard
Paul at
line.
home. This is Pee-wee public facing, and there was
Yeah.
no
But it's just
back
interesting.
and forth. There was this. There was a wall there that
It's just interesting, though, that, like I said, watching him in the present day in the documentary, like 2023, as a 70-year-old man, how he just still couldn't. He was still putting on an act.
well, because he'd been because again he had that.
Yeah.
There was that wall
And I
that
feel
the
like
public
obviously.
never saw behind.
Yeah, and I feel
And I
like
think he just-
obviously the director, that was probably one of their main goals, and producers of
Well-
that documentary was to get that to fall,
Yeah.
right?
Well, you want him to be like vulnerable and reveal like his true self.
He
Yeah.
wasn't vulnerable in that at
Well,
all.
he
He wasn't.
because he's always had that. Yeah, that wall.
like-
He's been doing it for so long. He
It's like he would be talking about something and it was like you could feel that it was like getting so close to being like, that's the real Paul Rubens. But then it would just be like,
or he would say it and then
joke
completely
about it.
contradict
But that's
himself
what I
with
mean.
a joke. Yeah.
He would get, it would be so close to like, okay, well, that's like an authentic, like, what. And again, this is just the perception I have watching this. I mean, I don't know him in real life, but
Well,
I'm
nobody
saying
does,
like
and
you
that's
could
the whole
tell,
point of this
right?
thing. Yeah,
You
yeah,
could
that's-
tell there was a level of inauthenticity about him.
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
And not that it was like an evil thing, but it was just he was acting.
No,
or hiding.
he would always contradict me just to keep you guessing. Because again, I mean, he's for 70 years. His life was
Yeah.
public sees Pee-wee. Paul Rubens is my family friends only.
Do you
Yeah.
think
He didn't want.
this
I
In the
don't-
is
mix.
this is a
could not
completely
just completely open it up.
this is a completely like I get it. It's gonna blow your both of your analytical critical brains apart because obviously nobody knows the answer to this, but more of a deeper thought question. But like, do you think, well, either like based on what you watched or if you had to put yourself in those shoes, do you think all that was worth it in the end? I don't know.
I would. No.
No, I don't think so either because like I mean, yeah, I don't know.
I mean, it's hard.
It's it just depends on what your what your values are.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, he's left this legacy of Pee-wee Herman, which made millions and millions of people laugh
But
and
maybe-
smile. Is that?
Which it means a lot to like Generation X people.
Yeah, but
But
what
maybe-
he gave up to do that, is it worth it? You'd have to ask him.
Well,
Yeah,
of course.
he said like he never felt that kind of love with anybody else they had with Guy to start off with, right?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
So
That was the one that got away. That relationship and
But-
the ending of that relationship changed the whole trajectory of his
Well,
life.
exactly,
Yeah.
but he chose to end that relationship.
Oh,
Yeah.
he did.
Yeah.
No, exactly.
100%.
So, I
he made the
mean,
choices.
Yeah, so I mean, was it worth it? I mean,
That's what I mean.
I
I
don't know.
don't know.
It's hard to say. Like he got everything he wanted. He became rich.
But
He
did
became
he?
famous. Well, yeah, he did. But
I know, but I mean,
all the trappings,
and pitfalls that go with it. So, because he's a regular dude like everyone else who makes mistakes, like he's only human, right? Like everybody else, except
we all F up.
When you're famous, you end up on the cover of the Inquirer and all this shit.
I have to say, like, good or bad or evil or smart, whatever you want to call it, though, like, because I never really thought of it that way until I think it was you said that. But that last like audio recording of him, like the power move that was.
Yeah, no, it was totally him saying, "Okay, I don't have the control here, but because I can't control one thing."
He cut off contact and said, I'm not going to finish this documentary. I mean, and then in the recording, he's like, I've decided we're going to finish this documentary, and here is how.
Yeah. I mean, in retrospect, I'm assuming he probably mostly started ghosting them because he was actively dying and nobody knew.
Possibly.
I'm part of it.
I'm sure that was part of it. But I think it was more
the control.
I'm not sure where this is going, so I'm gonna.
When I were talking about the arrest stuff, he got like whatever.
Yeah.
No, I think he was like, I'm not sure. I know what I've said on camera. I don't know how.
He was very worried about how it was going to be.
Yeah, so I think he was like, you know what, fuck it, I'm gonna just shut it down, and then was like, you know what.
Well,
I'll give you what I want you.
Well, because he can't refute anything. That's it.
No one can ask a question. No one can say, here's how it went. Do what you please.
I mean, say what you want about him. He's definitely a polarizing person.
Yeah.
I feel like he's somebody that, I don't know, at least for me, like I can't, and it sounds weird because it doesn't matter, but like I feel like I can't decide in my brain if he's somebody that like I can like admire or somebody that I'm like, you were just kind of I don't know. It's a weird.
I have a hypothetical question for you.
Oh, Eric wants to ask me.
Yeah, I got a question for you. Okay. So do you think overall it was like a fair portrayal of Paul Rubens? And do you think Paul Rubens would be happy with it, seeing if he was alive to see it?
I think it was a fair portrayal because I think even though he didn't have the control over the questions that were being asked and stuff, I think he had a lot more control than he may have realized or that they realized in the way that he answered his questions. Like you said, he would say something, turn it around, make a joke, make you confused, make you have whiplash. Oh my gosh, look at, he's giving a big revelation. Oh wait, he's joking, but is he joking? Yeah. So he had control. He had control in that. 100% he had control in that. Do I think he'd be happy with it? I don't think so, because I think no matter what, he's somebody that unless he has his hands in it.
Yeah.
It's not
his he's the thing. Editing suite controlling the final cut.
No, and he even said when the one phone call, he's like, if I was in the editing suite, it wouldn't be good.
Yeah.
No,
it's true.
So I think no matter what, unless he was the one that was writing the questions, asking the questions himself and doing the editing, no, he was never going to be happy with it.
What about you over there?
No, I think exactly. I think they did a good job, and I don't think they did him dirty. I don't think they disrespected his legacy, but I don't think he would have. I think he would have still
not liked it.
Ooh, I can't believe they put that in. Or why didn't they use that?
Yeah.
I think he still would have.
But do you think that in his own weird way, like the way he like even controlled the questions and the questioning, he's still.
Well, yeah, he definitely was trying to steer
control it.
He tried to as best he could, but
But at the very least, he made people like be like, oh wait, is he telling? Is that really
and that's where exactly. So he tried to do it, but I think they did a good job with it. I don't think they did him dirty.
I think
no matter what they did, he probably would have had.
He felt he could have put a better product.
He would have been like, I get it. I would be the same way too. But like, hey, they didn't include that story that I told them, or why didn't they put in that show?
Well, he said that the producer is like, you don't know what stories I'm going to withhold from you.
Well, hold on a second. We'll end it with this. He did specifically say in some part of the documentary, because again, sprinkled throughout, he kept talking about how he really wanted to direct this, and he said, and we'll kind of end it on this, but he said, if I was directing this documentary, it would be me showing all of my videos of me performing. And talking about that. And then I did this, and then I did that. Oh, and then I did this. Do you remember that? Mm-hmm. I was like, right there, I'm like, okay. And I get it. I think anybody who's in that sort of a position has some sort of ego. Like, you have egos. You have to kind of be that. But I was just like, okay, right there. Now that I'm talking about it, I'm like, no, that's who he is.
Yeah.
He just wants the attention.
Yeah. So I guess.
But anyway, we'll wrap that up.
Final word, stream it or skip it.
I'm gonna say stream it. I thought it was a really well done documentary, and I think anybody who grew up watching Pee-wee would enjoy this.
I think for somebody who, again, straight off the top had no interest in watching this, it was actually really enjoyable. I actually paid a lot of attention to it, and I found Paul Rubens to be very interesting to try and like psychoanalyze.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd say stream it. If as a kid, I loved Pee-wee Herman. I still think Pee-wee's Playhouse or Pee-wee's Big Adventure is a fantastic movie. Yeah. Check it out. It's great. Yeah. We'll give it a watch. It's 2 episodes. So, yeah.
All right. Well, guys, comment below. Let us know what your thoughts on this documentary are, because I think it's a very polarizing documentary. So let us know what you think. But that's it for today's episode. It was a long one, guys. Thank you so much for joining us, and we will see you in the next one.
Take care, everybody.
Bye, everyone.
I'm a little Dottie.
Huh?
A rebel.
I know you are, but what am I? Is that what you said?
You did say that.